at great peril, I convinced Alex to invite me along and do a XenServer session. And I think kicking and screaming, he decided he'd probably have to stomach it. So what I'm going to try and do is keep the slides fairly short. See how that goes. And then we'll have a light show during the presentation. I thought that was a good idea. All of a sudden. And then basically leave it freeform. So I know various people have a lot of different questions. Carl has expressed lots of questions about, hey, does Citrix really mean it this time? Are we still doing XenServer this time, really? By all means, ask me questions on the way through, but I'd like to keep a good 10 minutes at the end for chatting about stuff, tell me what you want, what you don't like, etc. If nobody has anything to say at the end, then hopefully lunch will come at the appropriate time and we can all go and eat lunch, so you get some time back. All right. Can you actually see that at the back with a light like this? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you can tweet. This is obviously public, so tell people stuff. So who's seen this? Come on.
Oh, I've seen it now.
You've seen it now, yeah.
This is a bit like, yeah, okay.
It's not a vulnerability unless it has a logo.
There you go. The vulnerability with the logo and the nice name.
It's the new blue screen of XenServer.
The new, wow, it's actually the new blue screen of KVM, OEL, XenServer, you name it. Everybody's got this right now. So this is the Venom vulnerability. Some of you may have seen it on Twitter or whatever. The good news is, I want to put this in actually because we had a load of people asking me yesterday about this. So we're bringing a patch for this on hopefully Monday, early next week. Okay. So if you have a XenServer deployment, you can go get this. The nice thing about this vulnerability is actually XenServer turns out to have an extra security barrier compared to a lot of other hypervisors, so I'm not as worried about this as some other people are. So that said, oh, and if you want to find out more, go and see the blog post I wrote whilst in the session yesterday. Got edited by the lawyers last night. All right. Guessing game. How many people were at a XenServer session at Synergy?
Was there a XenServer session?
There were 2 XenServer sessions at Synergy, so you're clearly not paying attention, Carl. Right, so those of you who were in the XenServer sessions at Synergy, you're not allowed to kind of answer these questions. The rest of you, get on with it. So, because I'm British, I won't make you stand up, you just have to raise a hand. It's all very conservative. So how many lines of code do you think the Xen hypervisor has in it? Who thinks 150k lines? Hands, come on, you won't have to vote, otherwise, a bit boring. 150k lines, nobody thinks that. Okay, what about the middle one, 325k? Okay, so the rest of you are going to lift up your hands to the next one, right?
Yeah.
How about 400k? There's some non-voting people in here. You're wrong, it's actually this one. All right, now this is interesting because Xen's a bare metal hypervisor, right? So it sits on top of the hardware. The main piece of code on top is then an operating system control domain, but the actual thing that does the isolation is quite thin, which makes it quite nice from a security point of view, right? Except for Venom, obviously. All right, so here's another piece of trivia that is entertaining, which may break some surprises. How much of Xen Desktop 7.6 do you think is on XenServer? The 7.6, we're going to play fair here. Who thinks it's 20%?
What percentage?
20% are either customers or VDAs. It's about the same.
What, 20%?
Okay, how many people think 20% of Xen Desktop 7.6 deployments, right, are on XenServer?
Oh, that's going to be a question.
You with me?
Oh.
Okay, what did you think the question was?
Deployments are VDAs.
So, okay, deployments versus VDAs. So I'll tell you now, the stats I have work out roughly speaking within a couple of percent. Desktops versus, sorry, deployments versus VDAs are about the same, within a couple of percent. So, okay, so 20%, a few of you. Who thinks it's 53? This is a random number. Somebody's been paying attention here.
No, it's a specific number.
I know. Good man. And who thinks it's 75? Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, so it's 53. No, so the 53 is interesting here, right? Because a lot of people say, no way, I don't see this. Okay, so 2 things to say here, and we can debate this in a minute. One is it's call home data, so it's not some random survey with 2 respondents. And secondly, it has a fairly decent sample size, more than I've ever seen in any other survey. Plus it aligns with some other data that we have from a different source. So I'm pretty happy about it. But debate that in a minute. And the final one, you should have read the marketing material for this, and Jared will know the answer, hopefully. How many NVIDIA grade vGPUs do you think we support on XenServer 6.5? Who thinks it's 32 grid vGPUs per host?
96.
Okay, who thinks it's 64? Wow, okay, you're either not listening or you all know the answer. So if you guess 60, yeah, Jared knew the answer. Good. So 64 is actually on XenServer 6.2. So it's 96 now. All right. You can all leave after the next 3 or 4 slides because you don't care. All right. So I'm going to try and convince you. May not be able to. Here's that pie chart of Xen Desktop 7.6 on XenServer, so you can see where Hyper-V and vSphere live. So round about half, give or take, is on XenServer, and then the biggest chunk is obviously vSphere in second place there. Hyper-V turns out to not be very popular. Depending on what you guys see, again, you may argue with me, but that's what we see. Okay. Who do you think runs the oh, sorry, question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what sources you have for the vSphere on XenServer number or any, just what sources you
Same,
use.
so send desktop phone home.
Yeah, Zen desktop on, XenServer. What sources are you guys using for those? Just curious.
When you say sources, do you mean how we determine it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Zen Desktop 7.6 has a call home feature, right? So we know what function, what hypervisors use underneath every deployment that calls home. So vSphere, Hyper-V, whatever.
You're familiar with the longer VSI State of the Union survey?
Project VRC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Project
they have
VRC,
different numbers, I think.
they have very different numbers. I've had a good chat with Ruben last year about this. So a lot of the problem with surveys, right, is that every survey is biased in some way, right? And this is going to be biased in some way. I just don't know which way it is. The Project VRC thing is pretty slanted towards the Netherlands, and it's pretty slanted towards small deployments. Okay, so there's a significant bias there that's quite important to this. So
If you want later, I can share with you some of the stats we have as a hybrid solution.
great.
It's a bit different from what you're saying.
Yeah. So every source, everybody's going to skin this cat differently, right? I will tell you what I see, and the sample size is more than 1,000 deployments, 1,500 deployments now. I have other data that's a lot more deployments across all Zen desktop versions, slightly different again. So yes, there are different numbers.
Yeah,
Okay, there was a
maybe I'm
question.
confusing with that.
Carl.
No, because I've seen people try to move to Hyper-V, but then was in desktop and they realized, oh crap, we gotta have SCVMM and all that complexity, and they're just like, the Citrix admins are just like, we don't have time for this, and so, they either go back to XenServer or they go back to VMware and kill the Hyper-V project.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of Hyper-V as, oh, it's free, and then somebody says, but you need SCVMM. And then it used to be you get SCVMM on its own, now you buy System Center, and they just go, whoa, A, complexity, B, price. So I'm not slating Hyper-V, but that's just the reality of what we see right now.
Yeah.
Somebody had a question somewhere here. Yeah.
Citrix ANZ apparently seeing more interest in Hyper-V than XenServer.
Yeah, and Citrix China is seeing more interest in XenServer. As I said, region, deployment size, sector, you name it, right? So this is very much an average state of the world. Your mileage may vary very significantly, all right? So I'm not pretending to say that all you guys are definitely going to see this wherever you go. You won't. All right. Who runs the largest OpenStack cloud in the world? This is an entertaining question. All right, who thinks it's Helium? All right.
Nobody thinks.
Nobody thinks it's Helium. Okay, good.
They're going out of business, or they already have, I don't know, something.
All right, who thinks it's Internet, which is more plausible? All right, who thinks it's Rackspace, though? Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. So it's interesting because, again, so HP will actually, or has asserted fairly recently that Helium's the biggest one, so I don't believe that. So it is Rackspace. What I find entertaining is that this is true. Okay, so people don't necessarily always realize that XenServer and OpenStack are happily working together. In fact, I'm off to the OpenStack Summit next week, but obviously Rackspace has been running this for ages. So if you're running in cloud, we tend to own a lot of the private clouds, some of the public ones as well. And the other one, of course, is who runs the Netscaler SDX, or has heard of SDX, hopefully most of you, otherwise you've been on the wrong planet. So SDX runs XenServer and pumps through about 120 gig a second on a good day. All right. So Carl, to your point, I think on Twitter, Citrix is busy saying, well, A, load of XenDesktop and XenApp actually runs on XenServer, SDX does, the cloud stuff does. You've heard about Workspace Pod, or mentioned Workspace Pod, a lot of XenServer involved there. So from a Citrix perspective, should we kill off XenServer? I think we had a look, we came to the precipice and had a look down and said, oh, should we? No, I don't want to go there. And we came back and actually said, there's a lot we should do with this. So when you saw, I guess 18 months ago, XenServer, mentions of XenServer kind of not really happen, that was the point where Citrix was saying, should we be doing this or not? And then Citrix actually said, yeah, probably should. There's a lot of money in this. So we can talk in a minute, probably at the end, about specific questions about, does Citrix really mean this time? But
And should we trust you?
Sorry?
And should we trust you?
Should you trust me? Well, my job's on the line. If they get rid of XenServer, they'll get rid of me. So I care, right? All right. So in case you missed January, the kind of announcements were made. So XenServer 6.5 is fully 64-bit. Well, what was it before? Well, the hardware was 64-bit. The hi-fi has been 64-bit. You remember that 150k lines of code sits in there. Then you put domain 0 on top, which is a management domain that has a full Linux kernel, CentOS, API, HA, all that good stuff lives in there, and you run whatever virtual machines you like, 32 or 64-bit. With me so far? Good. 32-bit lived in here, we've made it all 64-bit. Life is good. What does 64-bit give you? Well, it gives you things like this, and just for fun, I thought I'd do some interesting copy and pastings. This is 64 vGPUs per host, and wait for it. Alright, so I'm available for any PowerPoint copy and pasting needs that you may have. I'm available. My hourly rates are really good. So when they decide to get rid of me from Citrix, I can do your PowerPoint for you. Alright, Jared, do you have a question?
No, go back.
Oh, you want that one? Okay. He wants to say goodbye.
Are you going to make this available?
Yeah. So it should be, I hope, where's that? It'll be on the share file. It's on the roadmap.
Copy paste each one or
well, I'm not going to disclose my techniques here. Sorry, I've got to keep my trade secrets here. So there you go. What else does it give you? So it gives you a whole load of performance bumps. So we actually did a fair amount of work both in upgrading the whole thing to 64-bit, which turns out to be a lot of work. And then we did a lot of performance. So if you're doing read throughput, storage type stuff, you get 40% bump. If you're doing network throughput, you get 80% bump. And if you're doing, if you're a cloud provider or you're a gaming provider, then you get the amount of time that we need to handle each new network flow has gone down by a factor of 16. That's kind of good. The middle one, by the way, if you're using XenServer before and you were complaining about not being able to saturate a 10 gig NIC, you can now do that, and you can also do quite a lot with a 40 gig NIC. So life is good. We also added in an in-memory read cache, which means that, funny enough, if you have a backend array, you don't have to keep hammering the backend array for every desktop that uses the same golden image, because that's kind of dumb. You put a cache in the way, it's now in memory. Life is good. It gives you a clicker that doesn't work. There we go. It gives you that, and obviously decreases the IOPS load on your array, so you can go and spend less money on your array, or go and use it for something else, which is kind of what people do. The other thing you do, by the way, is you can daisy chain IntelliCache. So your IntelliCache is disk-based versus SD-based cache. You can put that underneath. So funnily enough, you have a cache hierarchy. Again, life is good. By the way, also IntelliCache allows you to cache writes. Well, when I say cache writes, it's not ever going to write them back. So if you've got a desktop where you don't want to be persistent, and you want to throw it away when the user logs off, the writes get pumped into the disk or SSD, now they get written back to here. Again, save you some throughput on your array. So, come on
Just
then.
about the, can you go to previous slide?
This one or the next one back?
No, back.
This one?
Back? Yeah, sorry. So, in here, how do you commit the memory to the read cache, and does it actually take memory from the hypervisor itself, or?
Okay, so where does the memory come from the cache? So what we're actually doing here in domain 0 is we are taking the kernel buffer cache. So that is also used for other things. So the way you increase the size of the cache is you basically just add more memory to domain 0, at which point the kernel says, yep, I'll use that. So if you want to cache your entire golden image, just give domain 0 an appropriate amount of extra memory, life will be good. Simple as
What's
that.
the limit now for domain 0?
With 64 bits.
Okay.
Can you do this from the UI?
Can you do which?
Increase the memory on DOM0?
Yeah, good question. Answer is no. That was one of the things I wanted.
That's the problem.
That's the funny about it, yeah. It's easier than it was actually. So the bootline editing is much easier. But no, it does need to be in the GUI because that's my next on my hit list.
It's on the roadmap, right?
Yeah, well I control the roadmap actually.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you're saying, well, XenServer for a while has been 64-bit, but now the DOM0 is 64-bit. So
Yep.
what is that actually providing from a functional level?
So that's where it goes back. So what I didn't include, which what I should have done, was a slide that says what it actually gives you. So it gives you greater scalability in terms of the hardware you can put in, right? So previously on a 32-bit kernel, the number of effectively PCI devices we could accommodate was constrained because each one of those takes a certain amount of kernel low mem. And when you're a 32-bit kernel, your amount of low mem is rather small. And particularly when you had a load of GPUs, they were taking a load of low mem because graphics is memory hungry, and you couldn't, for example, have 3 K1 cards in your server. Sometimes you couldn't even have 2 K1 cards and a load of NICs, right? So that's one thing. The other thing it gives you is just greater scalability. So the 96 vGPUs per host is one example. The performance, some of that is due to the fact that we can, we've updated the kernel to 3.10 kernel and made it 64-bit, which is kind of good. And the other one is we gain more memory for things like the recache. Okay? The final one, which is kind of important, is if you buy, for example, HP Gen 9 gear, that is 64-bit only. You cannot boot in a 32-bit MMO context. So if you try to boot XenServer 6.2 on an HP Gen 9 box, it probably won't work. So we had to do this. There was not much option. So we get some performance bump, some scalability bump, and some we really had to do this bump.
And so you actually saw limitations. I mean, you kind of alluded to one with the graphics cards, but limitations of the actual ability to handle those cards before you would hit the physical space limit.
Yes. So there was an IBM box in particular where I think even with one GPU you couldn't actually fill up all the PCI slots because we were running out of kernel lane at that point.
There was an issue with the K1 cards in the R720.
Yes. Yeah. That was a warning rather than a it broke. But yes, you were getting warnings saying it's kind of about to break. Yoni.
Yes, just a bit off topic, but if I want to, let's say, monitor the DOM0 memory usage, right?
Yeah.
And that is it exposed in the RDs, or what's
Yes.
the easiest way to?
Yes. So DOM0 memory usage, I believe.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure it's exposed in the RDs. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Should be easy.
So yeah, RODs for the uninitiated are just the way you can get stats out of XenServer, right? And then graph them or whatever you want to do. All right, skipping through what we already said, IntelliCache, data chain, life is good. Right, graphs are fun. Graphs tell you good stuff. So what does this graph tell you? It tells you how good each release was. So this is, I've deliberately not put numbers on the y-axis, by the way, in case you're asking me that. So how many unique defects did customers report on each release, right? The x-axis is just finding out time. And this is cumulative, so the line never goes down. Okay? There is one line per release of XenServer. The higher up the line, the more reported defects over time, right? So the worse the release was, basically. And what you can see here is XenServer 6.2 has the lowest line, which is good. And XenServer 6.5 has about the same so far. Touch wood, right? So I'm pretty pleased because that means that the feedback we had from support from you guys actually about 6.2, I'm not saying there are no defects, there are definitely defects, right? Every piece of software has bugs, but mostly speaking, we're doing pretty well, right? So compared to some of the things we did back in 6.0 days, where people were a bit jumpy about moving to it, life should be a lot better.
So does that include XenTools?
It does include XenTools, yeah. That's just very much unique defects. If everybody had the same problem, I only can once.
That's due to XenTools.
Well, yeah, so one or two of those will be due to XenTools, yeah. So we are trying to do something more about that. Life is better than it was. I'm not going to say life is perfect. Okay? So, what else? We changed the editions and pricing. Don't worry, this is one slide, only one slide. So we used to have a thing called XenServer, it's 1250 a socket. We've called that Enterprise. It has more features than the free edition. Okay? We've introduced a thing called Standard, it's half the price, and it's just support. So free edition plus support. You can go between them if you pay some money, and that's for server, right? So if you're not running Zen Desktop Zen App, this is what you do. So in a cloud environment, server environment, this is what you do. If you're running Zen Desktop Zen App, it's bundled already, so it's free. And you get it like that. If you have Platinum, then you get the recaching feature thrown in. So most of the features are in the left-hand thing. All the features at the moment are in the right-hand thing. It's free. So the license cost and the support cost is free. It's included. It's bundled. Must hammer this into people. I spent this week trying to hammer it into people. All right. Another graph. Who uses login VSI? Who's familiar with login VSI? About half of you. Okay. So the idea of this is that you start up a load of VMs on your host and you see how many of them are run at an acceptable level of user response, so that they run like browsers, office applications, etc., and see if a user would be happy. So the x-axis is the number of VMs I've started up, the y-axis is the number of VMs that are continuing to give a good response rate. So ideally what you want is a y equals x line, nice straight diagonal line, okay? So these are the previous versions of XenServer. 6.02 got to 120 VMs before it went, means that you've ended up with some VMs not being very responsive anymore at the right-hand part of that curve. 6.1, 165, 6.2, 350, getting better. 6.5 still has a nice straight line at 500. So if you want to go and run 500 VMs per host, desktop VMs per host, you can, and they will work, versus me just asserting that it might work and you trying it out and breaking. Alex?
But this is a synthetic test. It tests
Yes.
for an hour or two.
Yes.
Try it after 2 days. 6.01, 6.02 finishes after 40, 6.1 finishes after 60, 6.2 finishes at most at 100. So I would say 6.5 actually handles Well, I tested with 200. That's real figure.
Pass. I mean, so I'm going to caveat this by saying I don't know what you're benchmarking, so it's difficult.
I don't benchmark that. I have users.
Right, but I have users who are running 150, right? It's a difficult, so what I will say is it's a difficult one again, because we have customers who are happily running 150 or 100 plus on 6.1, I think.
Are they on this planet? Because I haven't seen
No, they're on Mars, Alex. They're advanced. So you would configure it wrong. No.
What kind of hardware profile was with 500 VMs?
I have it in my notes. I can't tell you.
Terabyte of memory?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. How'd you get that many VMs on a
Yes, you
single
have a
host?
big host. You have an 8-way host with a terabyte of RAM.
Or really small VM?
Yeah.
David, there's a blog on XenServer.org where they actually detail the test parameters, hardware, everything.
Right. So you can get, so one of the servers we've had for a while now is 160 logical cores, so it's 80 physical times 2 hyperthreading, right?
Yeah.
The box that's just turned up and put on loan is 260 cores, something like that, plus 6 terabytes of memory.
Who makes that?
Can't tell you, but no. No, there are like HP, IBM / Lenovo, pick a vendor. They all have really big servers you can buy if you want. The difference is whether you want to do this, right? So Alex kind of mentioned that you don't see many people doing this number. It's true. We don't see many customers doing anything like 500 VMs. Most people, you remember the price point for a big server, right? You don't pay twice as much for a big server. You pay 4 times as much for a big server as a small one. Okay. And also eggs in one basket. Alex.
I asked you just a question because otherwise I'll forget it. So if we compare 6.5 with 6.2, the startup of machines became very, very fast.
It's 6.5.
But the shutdown is still very, very slow. So if we compare Hyper-V with shutting down 100 machines, it will shut down all of the machines within about 4 or 5 minutes. The XenServer still does it in half an hour or 40 minutes. Why?
Good question. No idea. I can
Does
try and find
anyone
that for you.
knows why? Because this is killing me.
I mean, I wonder, so what storage are you using at the back?
Doesn't matter.
So,
SAN,
so local versus SAN
So-
versus...
Yes, doesn't matter.
Okay, then I don't know. That would be my first pick would be, storage convention. And depending on what we're writing to disk. it might be
Shutdown is
different
much
by
more
big.
write intensive than the startup, so.
Yeah?
Yeah, but they made the startup very, very quick. So I saw the
Because it's cached, the reads are cached, but
Yeah, if you're caching the read.
the writes are not that optimized for cache.
Yeah, that would be...
So that's it.
It
It's
could
not
be.
optimized for
You
write.
need crazy
Yeah.
large write cached memory in your backend array, and that's
No, but Hyper-V on the same hardware does it in 4 minutes. That's what I just don't get. Why? What prevents XenServer to shut down them like with such a huge difference?
When I get impatient, I just use force shut.
Yeah, he doesn't write any data out. That's the...
That's it.
So Alex, I don't know the answer. I can try and find out, but I don't have that particular one.
So there was a Jeffrey suggested.
Maybe it could be the job handler of the queue.
So you mean it could be serializing the VM shutdown? It does, so certainly VM starts are serialized. VM shutdown is probably serialized. It's probably serialized, but
Parallel, yes. Who's parallel?
so I don't know is the short answer. I'm going to find out for you, try and get an answer. But your guess is as good as mine right now. All right. So who knows what that is?
It's a little bigger on the
Oh,
inside.
That's a PowerPoint slide.
It's a PowerPoint slide, correct. It's a man who watches TV. The rest of you not watch TV like me? Alright, who knows what a TARDIS is? Come on.
What?
Alright.
Bigger on the
Time
inside.
and
Bigger on the
relative
inside, good man. This is a time machine. You need to watch more sci-fi TV. It's Doctor Who. They have it over here.
Time and relative dimensions in space.
Good man. You know the acronym. I don't know the acronym. Alright. The point is, I'm going to take you back in time. Let's see this works this slide. Enzo, by the way, who's not the product manager for XenServer, had a DeLorean. Maybe I should have used a DeLorean. Anyway, so this is back. Why is it back? Well, let me go through what it does first. So if you missed it, XenServer has a virtual switch embedded into it. You can federate virtual switches across hosts and do things like cross data center LT networks, distributed ACLs that follow VMs when you migrate them and so on. We deprecated the controller, which is the thing that allowed you to do this kind of stuff, back in XenServer 6.2, it's come back in 6.5. Why the heck are we doing this? Because OpenFlow, which is what all this stuff is based on, has lots and lots of open source controller projects. So back in 6.2 we said, well, you know what, our expertise isn't really in building a controller, and there are all these people out there who promise us they're going to make really good controllers and commercialize them. So by the time we do 6.5, there'll be a load of products, right? And we got to 6.5 and no, it's got worse. There's even more open source controller projects. None of them are actually getting to the point where they're mature. Better bring this back. So it's back. There you go. And we will keep it sticky around until there's actually a sensible choice for people. So we were a bit early off the mark. All right, another thing that's back is this. So if you miss workload balancing, it's back again. Workload balancing is a bit like VMware DRS. Okay, so it allows you to look at, well, collect historical data, work out trends, and then either provide you with recommendations for where to put virtual machines, or it will do it for you if you really want. A lot of people don't trust anything to do it for them, so they just ask for recommendations. Even more people want the monitoring data out of it. It's a very simple form of collecting data. Jared?
I got some questions from customers around this.
So did I.
The starting up intelligent placement or being able to pin GPU-based machines across specific hosts, you know, depth, breadth, some of that, but kind of assigning out, you know, I want to take half my users or these VMs, stick them around here. Are you planning on adding any logic around PCI device or vGPU bound machines? Because you can't move them, we know this, but you can start them in specific places.
So I have some other slides not in this deck, so I can do those if you need to. But so vGPU placement is interesting because what we say is, well, you can either place it on the same GPU as an existing set of vGPUs, right? So maximize density, you can maximize performance by spreading them out as wide as possible. Now, we already have GPU groups within the API, which to some extent make sure that machines are signed up to the right hosts. We do need to integrate that into WLB, so it's not there yet. I'd like to put it in on the roadmap. To use a phrase against it, yeah?
Just a follow-on question. I haven't touched XenServer in a while.
Well, come on then.
I deterred away from it, more from just a GUI. I know some of these guys, you know, command line, all that stuff, but you know, from a customer perspective, they care about the user interface, right? And it just hasn't been there. I got to download and test a new one, but one of the things I was missing from an administrative aspect was, at least from my understanding, maybe it's back with the workload balancing, was the ability to do affinity rules.
Yes.
So that's something that's pretty important.
Yeah. So the key point about this is interesting. How many people would like anti-affinity rules?
Well, anti-affinity.
Yeah, so a lot of yes. Yeah, so there is no anti-affinity today. I suspect it might be a good thing to put on the roadmap again.
It used to be in the command line for workload balancing.
Really? I think you can create a home server, right, which is affinity. I don't think you'd ever be able to do anti-affinity.
And you can use it in cloud platform. You can create anti-affinity groups in cloud platforms.
Different things. Yes. Yes.
So I had a blog I made, now it's like 2 years ago. It was with SCVMM managing XenServer for that specific reason.
Yep. Yep. So SCVMM will give you anti-affinity because so cloud platform and SCVMM are both responsible for the VM placement at that point. So they will do anti-affinity for you. XenServer in itself doesn't have anti-affinity built in.
Is there a new management pack for System Center?
You should go and ask Microsoft that question. So my team built that functionality. I had many happy hours on the phone to Microsoft in Redmond. So Microsoft have decided in their wisdom to freeze their SCVMM for XenServer support at XenServer 6.1, I think.
I wonder why.
So do I. They probably didn't like me. So that's an interesting question. But and we have plenty of big customers who were a bit upset about this. So bang on Microsoft's door and say, look, we'd like this back, please.
So when do you see the anti-affinity rules? I mean, do you get a lot of requests for that? Because that's
yeah, I get about a third of you want that, right? So yes, I do get a certain number of requests. Is it the most popular or most desired feature ever? No, but it's pretty high up there. Yeah.
Can you control all these features via PowerShell?
And maybe they would. I bought you a drink. You're not allowed to comment.
I didn't comment. I was
just clearing your throat. What you're saying is you need another drink, Carl.
Yes.
Yeah. So depending on which features you're talking about. So what I will say is the entire API has PowerShell bindings, right? Whether they're very good bindings is a different problem. And also, so WLB uses the API, but as far as I'm aware, there's no bindings into WLB with PowerShell. In fact, there aren't any.
I think you would rather have
So what do you actually want to do? Say it?
all of it,
But all of what?
all of the features.
So every feature, anything you do in XenServer,
Yes.
right? That uses the public API.
Yes.
The public API is PowerShell bindings.
Like an SDK for Xen or something like that.
Yeah, so there's an SDK VM you can go and play with, right? So the entire API is bound to C, C++, Java, Camel, Python, PowerShell. So if you want to go use it, that's what we use all the time. So XenServer goes and uses the same API that you can use today, and all the binding is public.
It's also worth pointing out XenServer's code's entirely open source, so if you really want to, you can just
Easy example.
use it as a code example.
That's good.
So yeah, go play. It's all there.
Question. Workload balancing.
Yeah. Is
So
it like
when-
DRS? No.
When workload balancing was first time introduced, it was Windows basic.
It's not. It's Linux based.
It's not as bad as
Then you just take these executables that are .NET executables and put them to the mono. And what you did actually, it's okay to run this on mono. Maybe it's because of that Microsoft doesn't like you. But you, in first version, you used SQL Server reporting services.
Yeah.
When you move this to the virtual appliance, Linux-based virtual appliance, you implemented some other stuff. So you're not using reporting services. New version for 6.5.
Has it changed? No. Not in that regard.
So you're not going back to Microsoft. You're not.
No. So, do you want us to go back to Microsoft?
SQL Server reporting services is designed to create reports. Your stuff is making limited set of reports.
Yes. Yes. There are a couple of more reports actually thinking about it. So we have updated it, but in terms of the actual architecture, no, we haven't changed what reporting engine we use. Sorry. Can't have everything, you know. All right. So, if you're asleep this week, we again, who came to Synergy? Who was in the keynote Synergy? 50% of you. Okay. Were you asleep on Tuesday morning at the keynote? Yes? No? Who was asleep on Tuesday morning at the keynote? Raise your hand now.
Asleep? No, I was awake.
Oh, yeah, asleep. So there were some mentions of XenServer, so I believe. So did you sleep through those? You blank them out? So the first thing is, so to understand about number of VMs and all that, right? So 150 or 500 or 650. 150 was the old limit of VMs per host. 500 Windows VMs per host on 6.5, 650 Linux. We've got rid of all that and we've made it one of those because it seems like a good idea, and that's any sort of VM. And yes, we can do this. We have actually tested this versus me assessing it again. You do need a very big host for that, but it does work. Okay. So life is good. What else do we do? We added what you'd expect us to do, so new guest OSs. The observant among you will notice the Core OS one. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the other thing we've done about this is we've added long-term support. What does that mean? To get new guest support previously, what you had to do was you had to upgrade XenServer to the next version. Within reason, assuming we don't need to kind of fundamentally change the architecture, we will add new guest support in, hotfixes, service packs, whatever, versus forcing you to keep going up and up and up. So particularly for big deployments, big enterprises and cloud providers, this is a good thing because they don't want to move very fast. That's fair enough. Talking of VMs, it's not just VMs, it's also these things. You remember these things? It's those Docker. So if you're into Docker containers, you can now do those on XenServer. It's up to you whether you mix and match, right? So for those, who's familiar with Docker containers? Hands. Okay, 50% of you. So Docker containers. Linux containers have been around for a long time. They're basically a very lightweight way of splitting up or running multiple containerized, funny enough, applications on one OS. Okay, so it's kind of a poor man's virtualization. That's one way to put it. The security isolation is okay. The overhead in doing it is lighter than running a full OS per application. Obviously, you have one OS. What Docker's done though is it's kind of popularized this because not only does it make it user-friendly, but it's also got the ability to have what is effectively an app store, right? It's a place you can download lots of Docker containers from, and when you download a Docker container that has everything in it pre-configured for you, so you want to run a WordPress site, you just download the WordPress container and it has everything in it, be it the web server, the WordPress stuff, etc., all done for you. So you can now go get Docker containers, stick them on XenServer, life is good. By the way, it mentioned CoreOS, you can also do that with Ubuntu as the hosting operating system of your containers. It looks something like this, and I'll zoom in on that. So here's CoreOS running as a VM on a host called Brandon, sorry. And then inside the CoreOS thing, you can see your containers, and you do things like see what processes are running, see how much resource they're taking up. You can then create containers using the usual way of doing so with, for example, the SSH key you need to access them, etc. You can do that through the new VM wizard, and you can do all the lifecycle stuff like start, stop, pause, etc. This is pretty much a version 1, right? So we want to see what you guys think of it. If you think it's useful and interesting, then we'll do some more. If it's kind of interesting but not really that interesting, we'll leave it as it is. I think what's instructive about this though is some big customers have come to us and said, we want to do containers, but actually really want one container per VM. And you have to pause and think, why the heck do you want to run kind of one container inside a virtualization container, right? And the answer is, it's not about containers, it's about the fact that it's really easy to go up to that app store type of functionality and just suck down the thing they need. So they're looking for the ease of use rather than container. So for some of you, it might be the case that you want to run one container inside a VM and take advantage of that.
GPU compute workloads.
GPU compute workloads. So yeah, when you've got a GPU pass through to a virtual machine, all those containers can now take advantage of it.
Also on the workload, because oftentimes that's still not enough GPUs. So when we have multiple GPUs? Okay.
So yeah, you can have more. So containers, let us know what you think, right? It is, as I said, it's a version 1. We've put it out there. We had a tech preview. We now fully support it. Have a play. Okay, this is for Jared because it's graphics, right? No presentation about XenServer is complete about graphics. It's a ray tracing thing. So we now will do Linux GPU pass-through. So if you want an NVIDIA grid card or an NVIDIA GPU, you can push that through to one of these Linux guest OSs and do your ray tracing. Okay? So I'll let Jared take his photo, and if anybody has any questions, now's the time while he's busy taking his photo.
That's a good justification against these events.
Alright, so if you've done NVIDIA Grid vGPU on XenServer for a while, then you'll be complaining about the fact you have to do command line stuff. There were 2 reasons you might have to do command line stuff. One was to change the number of vCPUs per virtual socket. That's now been in the GUI since 6.5. The other thing you had to do was install the NVIDIA host drivers through the CLI. You can now do it through the updates wizard in XenCenter. So there is no CLI, which is kind of good. So for the man at the back who was telling about CLI, this is one fix. Okay, Jared has to shut his eyes here. So if you want to do something which involves a small amount of GPU on chip, Intel have done Iris Pro on CPU. Okay, so no add-on graphics card, which for some people performance and cost may be appropriate. But you can now get that in a server. So you buy your server, it has a GPU built into the CPU. You can now do Intel GPU pass-through on XenServer 6.5 SP1, so go play with it. If you've got a moonshot, got a gigabyte bricks box, go do that. Intel will roll this into more and more CPUs, so you may not have a server that has this in yet, but it will do soon. Okay?
And also HP let it slip in their moonshot session that XenServer will be supported on the moonshot XenApp cartridge, the M710.
It is supported for the M710 already.
Yes.
So it's on the HCL. The XenServer HCL already has M710 on it, and yeah, Moonshot.
But they're doing the testing, so their support guys will actually support it.
I know, because I've talked to them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay, so if you want to go out and do this, you can. But there's more. There's even more. So what is it? Well, you can, if you want, have no graphics card because this GPU is already on board the CPU, and you get multiple of them, which is kind of interesting. So you get into this ultra convergence thing, which is obviously CPU, network, storage, and now GPU on one small cartridge, potentially. You go get that. So if you at Synergy you saw the HP booth, the Intel booth, or the Citrix booth, they were all demoing this. So this is multiple virtual GPUs, so real slice of hardware, from the Iris Pro graphics on the CPU, and you can stick those into virtual machines. You go get that in Q3, see what you think. So far, so good. What do we do next?
Is that Service Pack 1 information?
The stuff I just gave you, yeah.
Oh, you just gave it, sorry, I wasn't aware.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I get these complaints from Alex about some of these things, about he doesn't know certain things, because he walks out of
I'm very suspicious that Rachel is very quiet. I'm very, very suspicious about that.
That's just, she's got all she wants. All right, Kirby. Alright, so what have we been playing at with versions? So we did 6.5 in January. By the way, Carl, to the point about, how seriously does Citrix take this? So this is probably the first release, 6.5 is probably the first release I can remember where we did a press release. So that indicates we are actually taking it pretty seriously now. If you've been asleep again, the next project codename after 65 SP1 is Dundee. It's a town.
No, but I think Crocodile.
Well, Crocodile Dundee was the other thing we thought of, and then we thought about that scene when the guy puts the knife through the head of the crocodile. And that doesn't like me.
So I have to apply for the
Dundee T-shirts.
Dundee T-shirts. So
I guess I have to apply now to get it from you, is it, Rachel? So by the time it will get out, I'll get the shirt. Just
Alex, I will make sure you get a Dundee T-shirt. I will personally post you one if need be.
As long as he's not wearing it on his hat, but just on his...
If he wears it on his head, that's fine. He won't be able to ask difficult questions then.
He's never happy, is he?
He's never happy. Well, none of you are ever
But
happy.
now he wants to be an early adopter of
That's
XenServer.
fine. That's fine. You can
It's like a really difficult relationship, me and XenServer.
No, he just wants to be he wants to be an early T-shirt adopter, right? The early adopter of the software. But,
He's never had...
so you know what? The number of demands or requests I've had for T-shirts, I'm just thinking we should probably go to be a T-shirt company. I could do the XenServer apparel line if you get the software. It'd be so much easier. A few bucks.
I think it's just for house painting.
No, it's because the XenServer cannot deliver. I just justify it with a T-shirt. I just stand there. All right, okay.
You don't want to associate with Crocodile Dundee, because then you'll get that's not a hypervisor.
Good man. So yeah, they're done with the appropriate accent, or near appropriate accent. So anyway, so if you want a Dundee T-shirt, they're limited edition right now. I have one in my case, but there's like 10 in the world. So we will distribute some. If you want a T-shirt, promise me you love XenServer and you might get one. All right. So I've got a few things to say about Dundee, but I think I have one slide. Yeah, one slide. So there are 3 themes. One is do some more stuff with graphics. There's plenty of stuff I can't talk about, so expect more interesting things in graphics. The reason, by the way, that I'm interested in doing this is because we spent 18 months doing something vSphere didn't. And you know, vSphere is a good product, it's just that we all have different features. Now vSphere has grid vGPU, we're going to do some other stuff that vSphere doesn't have. So depending on whether you want to do graphics, then vSphere may not necessarily be the option you want to go to, you may want to go to XenServer instead. Okay. Right, we're going to do a lot of stuff on storage. As you might expect, we bought a storage company recently, so we'll do some stuff with storage. There's plenty of other things we want to do in storage. And the final one is basically costs. Now, total cost of ownership, you can play games with list price, that's easy, right? I can reduce the list price and watch my revenue go down, or I can make it such that it's cheaper for you to deploy by, for example, saving money on your backend array because of reduced write-ups and you get to use it for anything else. Or I can make it easy to manage, so you spend less time messing around, or your admins, your ops team, spend less time messing around, so you pay less to them. Okay, so expect more stuff in that area. Clearly I'm not going to talk about much of this because I'm not allowed to.
I thought the middle image meant when you use XenServer Dundee, you'd drink a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I drank when I came to these sessions, I'd be driven to drink by the time I finished them. So,
I'm suspicious about the money in about the card from about 12 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, the card from 12 years ago is basically because
all
it's
technology
copyright free image I can find.
Oh, you could use the
so if you can give me more images of grid cards, I will use them. Because I have like 2.
Or you're trying to say something about the graphics
No,
movements in Dundee.
No, I just don't have any images of grid cards I can use. So give me, tell you what, I will trade you a T-shirt for grid card images. That's got to be an advantageous trade to you. All right, so 3 themes. Don't ask me too many details. Alex, you can ask and I'll say no.
No, I'm just saying 1 minute.
1 minute? 1 minute? All right, so fortunately this is kind of the end of the deck. So what I want you to remember, we can skin a cat in terms of the stats, but basically an awful lot of Zen desktop use on XenServer. Okay, the cloud platform, we talked about public clouds, OpenStack, cloud platform, etc. An awful lot of that is on XenServer as well. So the thing I always talk to our ISVs and OEMs about is basically, look, if you care about Zen desktop, you probably care about XenServer too, otherwise you're counting yourself out of half the market. Well on that thought. We've been doing stuff with NVIDIA for ages, we're doing stuff with Intel in the graphics space. There will be plenty more things in the graphics space. Watch out for that, and finally watch out for the ultra-convergence thing. You've heard of Workspace Pods. Workspace Pod is XenServer based, so watch out for that too. If you guys haven't downloaded this already, you're like really running behind. You're what, 4 days, 5 days behind now, so get going. Yeah.
Is there a shortcut to the XenServer developers, people, whatever, where you can ask direct questions? Because it's like a cloud. It's distributed everywhere, but no one knows where to answer. Is that just the support forums where you ask XenServer questions where everyone would take a look at them?
So I'm trying to paraphrase your question. How do you ask XenServer questions on the interweb?
I scream, usually in pain, in Twitter.
So you can scream at me on Twitter and I might answer you. Okay. The support forums are a very good place to go.
Rachel will have them tweeted within the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of good people in the support forums. A lot of our support engineers also hang out in the support forums as well, so they kind of do pro bono support. Occasionally some people like me hang out there as well, so you will probably get an answer there. If you are an OEM, IHV, ISV, ODM, then you should have a relationship with my team. If you don't, come and talk to me, so that you get a special panel. Okay, so Alex, you can email me and I will ignore you, and then I might answer you.
I know, that's what normally happens, isn't
I
it?
know. Well, it's better than the Atlantis guys who raise a ticket and say, yeah, XenServer doesn't work on top of vSphere. I'm like, yeah, you try XenServer on top of XenServer. That works. All right.
Questions during the lunch, please.
Yes, go eat lunch.